everyone. So I'm gonna do some mic check right now. Test, test. Golang, gopher, gopher, Golang. Golang, gopher, gopher, Golang. Golang, gopher, gopher, Golang. Hello, test, test. Hello, test, test. Hello, test, test. Test. Golang, gopher, gopher, Golang. All right, this seems to be good. Before the cough, air is very bad right now. Announce it. Okay, today we'll try to build um, a web application that connects to a database. So we're gonna start. Um, we're gonna use Postgres for this one. So let me take this out. I'm gonna remove this one to oh, matter. So start. I'm gonna use Docker to let's try a database server. Try to use something that is not n or fine. Port one. Mm, this is the port that is used. going to bind, and we have environment as Postgres user as password. I need to do a bit of a lookup, make sure that I have the parameters right. Wait, tutorial. So let's have a look. Docker Postgres. So what are the parameters? Postgres DB, right? I'm correct. Postgres password. Okay, we are good. So start the database. Because I have a one running previously, so we are good. So let's try to going to write an application um, that connects to the database, and let's create let's say food database. So this will be my where I do the persistencies. So app database connections, and I'm gonna have some. What else do I need for it? Okay, not rest. So create an app. First, we need to create the database connections. So since we are using Postgres, and the standard library actually provides the, the binding, not binding, the libraries for managing your to do a database operation. We just need a driver. So we're gonna use a libpq because this is a pure Go library. Okay, this is how we're gonna store it. I'm going to do a dash u to upgrade my existing one if there is, and v for repository. So I just want to know what is happening, what is being updated as well. Before I forget, let me announce it. Telegram channel. So if you are not on the Telegram channel, there are actually two Telegram channel. One is Belajar Golang and the Golang Malaysia channel. To know more about it, join the Golang Malaysia Facebook group and look for the description. So now let's go back to the libpq. How do we use it is just we're gonna just import it, and you do an injection. And, so since we're not going to use it directly, and to start a database, SQL opens Postgres and the connection string. To get the reference of the connection string, you can go to the documentation page. Godox one, and you can get on string. So this is how we're gonna connect to it. So constring will be post. And, if you're using the default one, you can actually skip this. I'm going to show the full flow. That's hotspot. And the one that I use for the cell nodes, hotspot, db name, tutorial, and for a little bit of performance, especially during development, we're going to disable SSL mode. So disable. So this is how we create connections. Usual, do your error check. Third, so we get database. One tips and tricks is especially when you use a lot of Go routine, you actually need to set a maximum number of concurrent connections and idle connection. Because if you didn't close it properly, like for every connection that you didn't close it properly, if you exhaust the database system of available connections, and uh, you block the database so that none nobody can use nobody can, not just the Golang application, but nobody can use the database. So let's give it a generous one. You can actually try an error. Let's give it a generous one. I do connection. I'm going to give it a 10. Let's give it a 50. Especially when you're new to Golang, if you do some when especially when you just started doing a database and you are experimenting with Go routine, spawning a lot of real Go routine, you will start to exhaust the database for like either it will warn you or the database will stop responding to any new commands. So this is very important. But and also another tips, this part only creates the connection, but it doesn't really tell you whether the connection is up or not. So it's not essential, but I like to do this myself, which is to do a ping. Be careful when you do this in, let's say, in a containerized situation where the startup of every processes is not in sequence. You might need to do a retry and sleep if you are going to do this, or else your application will fail to connect. So okay, that's look pretty good. Let's do a test. I mean, a simple one, as in running the applications. It's fine. So let's try to do something to it. Um, we are going to create a table. So exec, do a preparation. So create. So if not exists, I'm going to call it food. Um, wait, ID, serial, gotta give it a name, which is a text. What else should we put in? Um, let's try like rating. Right. So let's run it. Okay, seems to be fine. So let's examine our database. Let's go get into the our Postgres to check it out. Okay, this is a bit long. So Docker compose. This is a very useful one. If you are using Docker Compose, you can just analyze it. Just run Postgres, SQL, tutorial. Cool. So now we have this table front. So, but it seems to be a bit too robust here. So we're gonna get this out and do a connect to DB. So we have functions and in Golang connect DB. I'm gonna call it this way. And in Golang, um, any functions or actually not function, anything, including your constants, your variable, your type, and your functions, if they are capitalized, it means they are exported. It means in OOP kind of a language, it means that it's a public function, and if it is not, this is a private one. Okay, but be careful about this because defer will run after the function finishes. So what this means is that um, you get a database connection that is closed. So let's delete that. And for beside main, I actually don't recommend it to panic. Instead, return the error. So to return error regardless. Yep. Then we have a bootstrapper and database connections. Let's do update. New. Okay, so I want the DB. Oops. So now we have it. I'm going to put some of them down here. So let's check for error. Always check the error. So we're gonna have an application app. Anything that can be closed needs to be closed. In an app, we want it to be a handler. So how do we make it into a HTTP handler? Is by supplying self and these functions. So HTTP spawn writer just put a dummy function into it that will print up hello world. So this itself is now HTTP handler. So I'm gonna give you a tips and tricks. This is how we're gonna start it. Okay, listen and serve. Port will be 9,000 and if error is not new, let's raise it. Right. So now let's make it all first. We're gonna print right starting server at 9 log. The difference between log and format print is that log will include timestamp. I'm gonna show a few tips and tricks on how to use logs to get more from it. So now we have this. So this is the extra feature that provided by log, and you can actually override certain traits of log using this because log is actually a global object normally unless you initialize your own logger. So add facts log l date. I'm gonna l time log l short file. So basically, normally it is date, time, and standard flags. But right now we are adding a description of where the file is. So let's run it again, and you see it is the date, the time, and the file, and the line number of that. So it is at 33. So for some it is useful. So and also verified that your struct implements handler, you can actually do this as well. So do a var, let's say for the sake of testing and test, HTTP handler equal this. So on build time, you will try to uh, declare a variable this, and because of the interoperability of strut and the interface, you can actually cast it into a handler if it actually fulfills it. So let's run it. Yep, it runs. So this is one of the trick to actually make sure that you enforce the interface. So if it's not, let's comment this. So assume that we forgot to implement the handler. So, but hey, the links know about it. So let's run it. And it will warn you that on line 15 here, what happened here is that cannot use app as type HTTP handler because it does not implement this missing serve HTTP method. So let's re-enable that. And if you watch the previous show, if you were yeah, in the last video, we actually showcase a bit of like how all the HTTP serving works in Golang. It was not done so great. There were a lot of technical issues, but I'm going to cover some of them again. So let's right now we only have one endpoint. Oh, and we want our app to actually encapsulate itself, like to make it as something that full serve the full application. So we are going to do a bit of similar to REST, but it's actually not REST, just a bit of a CRUD operation via, yeah, the showcase via CRUD. Via we're gonna do the test via code. So I'm not going to write a front end UI for it yet because we are limited time and I want to keep it within 1 hour. So let's there are several routers outside, um, and most of the framework they are actually uh, alternative to the router. So up to your own preference of it. But if I am going to use this, I cannot declare it every time here because um, you'll be a bit troublesome. Like I have to write everything. I have to like persist the logic here, and it's like pretty much scattered all around the place. So you can have a tree like new app. So DB. This is a external input. So we're gonna create app. I'm gonna just start an app DB and DB. So I'm gonna have a router as well. App router equal router. So we are going to have a route. What should we do with it? What we want is to be able to create. Let's create a create function then. I don't want to make it as a REST like because I want to showcase like they are when there are different endpoints for different operations. So I'm going to handle create a handle func. So it's very weird. It's like I'm referring to myself. So handle func create app create and create func. I have helper create func. And handler func actually looks like your handler that what is required by the handler. So be really careful when you declare when you try to bind your route to whatever functionality you want to put in because there are actually two ways to do it. One is handle func handle which it accepts. It's actually declared here as well. It's actually a handler func, a handle func. So if you want, you can actually cast it back into a handler by doing this. So handler func functions. I'm gonna show you afterwards. Let's finish the functionality here first. And what create does is I want it to be post on it. So I'm gonna check the method. So if method is not post, I'm gonna return an error. So so when it happened, I want to return error. There's actually a helper of it. try to rely on the autocomplete for it. And this is the text, status, text, activity, method, status, method not allowed. Remember to return so that the functions you stop here. So now let's get the parameter. What we had just now was we have two major columns that we have to key in, a name and a rating. So now let's get it from the request, um, post form, so get name, rating. We have a string, but we want to convert it afterwards. Rating. Um, let's conveniently assume that uh, to skip up the validation part. So we're gonna do a conversion of this rating to string convert A to I rating string error. It's not new. Let's log the error. If you want to be more verbose, unable to pass rating error is this. So, but we have to then status text. I'm gonna just do it. Put it. So it's not technically that, but supposed to be unprocessable, and but I'm gonna call it intellectual error. It's more widely used by other people. Look, notice the break line down there is the warning because Golang doesn't like the unused variable. I'm actually doing a hangout, so that broadcasts to YouTube Live. So if you prefer to just ask question on YouTube, just type it in the chat, or else you can actually message me if you know me on Facebook. Message me your email, and I'll send you a invitation to get into the session. So let's type this into the database. And I actually prefer to use a transaction because it's a database transaction instead of directly running into it. So it's a bit uh, very verbose. So and it's sometimes it get really annoying to do this. And I'm gonna show you guys how do we improve this code afterwards. So the transaction. Okay, we're gonna go back. I'm gonna I defer every by default, in case anything goes wrong in the middle, I'm gonna roll back regardless. But because we are writing to the database, we want it to be one commit. So it's actually okay to do a commit afterwards. Let's go it step by step then. Back. So insert into food name rating values and um it's not something that is universal, but Postgres actually uses the dollar sign notations. And if I remember correctly, SQLite and other databases they have their own format. So be careful. It's not the its notation actually is actually not universal. It's database specific. So now we have our name and rating. So I don't care what I've written. So I just want to check for the error. If error, let's conveniently can paste this. And what happened after we write that is we want to commit it. So px, remove the commit, write it into the database. And I'm gonna do okay, create it. And this tips, state the header, right? Header, tp status created. Yep. 201 is actually which is a call created is for specifically for a new object that you have created. So we have this function that we declare here. So app itself is a router, no, it's a handler that encapsulates its own logic and including its own router. So itself, it has a slash create, and so let's try it out. Let's start the server, right? Lucky. So let's have another shell here because for simplicity's sake. Meanwhile, I need to check the chat. Okay, nothing much is going on. So let's do a code. Expose. Okay. Oh, let's do a test first. Like, let's do a gate. HTTP 127 and 9000. Great. Oh, it get a hello world. Okay, something must be wrong then. Oh, because my router is this is my application. I'm supposed to serve from my router. So router HTTP. Correct. Start it. And nothing. It's supposed to be normal. Let's do a test. In test. Yeah, not so much of a good practice. And the found. Great. Start. Oh, I actually have errors. What happened here? Invalid memory or new pointer to reference. What happened? I was serving from a new pointer. I get the database right, and I got the serve marks. It's actually correct. Which part of the code 71? So let's restart it. 30. Why do I have a weird character here? Oh, delete it. So let's throw again. Okay, you fail again. So what actually happened? 74. Okay. Oh, because I'm actually still serving from here without using the factory that I set it up previously. So because of that, it's trying to look for the router which I didn't set it and resulting a new pointer to reference. Be careful about that. So even I myself have this mistake. So next, yeah, all right, it seems to be fine. Let's proceed with the rest of the code. Server again. The create endpoint shouldn't entertain any requests beside host. Okay, method not out. Nice. So I'm gonna post some data in. Um, Name is called what's it about? And rating is over the top 10. Server error. So let's have a look. Enroll. Oh, I actually get nothing. Uh, so let's have a look. Oh, it's actually is it a form? Let's look then. Oh, to print out everything from Rebel. This seems to be a bit of not so much of a best practice. So let's do a SQL debugging. Should I do this? How's home? Right. Oh, I should actually do that. So I suppose pass form is the one that for all requests and update form. So it will pass the request body and put the results into post form. Okay, so it's a really bad mistake on my side, and yep, you should actually run it before you try to get it. So yeah, we have a successful request created, and let's have a look at the database. Select all from food. We have a Lassi Lemak with a rating of 10. So this method of doing database operations seems to be a bit messy, and it seems to be pretty much locked down to the handler. So another way of us to get the benefit of Golang is to we can do a wrapper of the database connection and create a helper method. So let's do this. So skill, I'm gonna uh, do this, which is equivalent but not the same, like inheritance. So yeah, DB, I'm gonna wrap it into a DB here. So here, let's separate it as a different file then right now to for clarity. So we're gonna have this. And Golang actually follow a directory based namespace. So every file, every code here at the same directory level needs to follow the same namespace. So it seems like there is no question on YouTube, so I'm gonna just continue with whatever I'm doing. So let's repeat here. I'm going to do a inherit with a air quote inheritance. So now we have uh, helper functions. So create add food. So name string. Um, we have a rating as an integer. Error. So let's get the file function here. This. And I can just return this. Don't worry that when you do a rollback as a defer after you commit, as long as your transaction is what you call it concluded, you this one doesn't won't do anything unless it fails. It's just for me this is just a habit because in case like anything goes wrong in between, I can just know that my database my transaction can be like um, clean up properly. So we have an add food here. So let it will be a much more simplified function right now. And app db add food name and rating. So just check the error. So let's do a bit of a helper logging unable to add food. So in yes waiting. I'm gonna do a bit of a robot logging and this is not the convention. It's just my convention. So do you can find up your own preference. That's okay. And if you do a print f, if you do a print like print line, oh, my lint doesn't seem to work, but it's supposed to warn you about that. So yeah, D, it's a DB. This is a SQL DB. All right. So let's start it again. Oh, add food. I have it here. Correct. What went wrong then? 52. Oh, and also if I do a run, this is a catcher. If I have a multiple main file, I actually need to run them together, or else you will have discovery issue. All right. Oh, because I declared it previously. Alright, let's delete it. Everything seems to be a-okay now. It seems to be a bit troublesome to do it. We can always because the Golang compilation is actually very fast. So right now the build time is 1 second, so I can do a Go build. and run the example because it follows when it do a build, it will follow the directory name. So because it's a familiar because of the series, get familiar with Golang, it will create a binary with the name, but default name will be familiar. So just do a go clean, it will clean up. If you would like to have a different name, you can have it like let's say example dash O is the output. So I'll put it to example, but go clean won't be able to detect that. Let's do a go build and run it. Assume that it's successful. So let's create more. I'm gonna do it. Roti canai. Yep. Once again, no surprise. So this is a much more organized way to do a helper instead of lumping everything together. So gradually you can actually, as you like, you can split them out. And let's have okay, we just have a create function, then we have let's say list. We're gonna create a list function then. Handle file list is actually the easiest, but I want it to be to give me a list of them in JSON. So app, I'm still getting used to using this home keyboard with laptop. So now I don't care about like if you care about like whether the method is this or that, you can do this check again. But there's no required parameter for this. I just want a list of everything, and I want to return a JSON. So make sure that the header is right. That contain type. Golang is actually in between high level and low level, and for this situation, um, in the case you have to set the type manually yourself. So let's write something. Let's get something. So let's go back to the list. We're gonna do a mock first from the DB. I want to get a food list. So this is not a reserved word in Golang, so it's safe to use. Okay, it feels a bit of like annoying to do it, but always log your error properly. Unable to fetch the list, the food list. Error is the S is actually fine because error actually has a string. For error, it's not showing up. It's actually works as a string as well. So V is like I don't know like what I want. I just provided this interface. Just print it out at your best effort. Oh, error. Save it. Okay. Status tags. That's the error. For some some of my API servers, I actually return a JSON response all the time. So what it expect is actually the interface here error. This is the status code, and this is just a helper to do this. This is just a helper that equal to this uh, right header HTTP status in internal server error right only to byte because right only support byte HTTP status text HTTP status internal server error. So this is just a helper to do this both lines. And for some cases like my API server because I need to make sure that it always return a JSON even the errors. So you can substitute this part with the your whatever constant that you set up with in correlation with status code. But right now we are just printing the text. For 500 it is internal server error. And always remember when you have a return error, just do a return so you terminate the function so it won't go to proceed. Because if you forgot to do this, it will proceed to the next one. Try to. So if you have two errors, then you have a printing of like this, like two internal server errors, and it will look ridiculous in a way. So we just created something that we want. It's not existing yet. So by how do we serialize JSON? So this is normally how we do it. Normally, it's also most people start with. So Marshall is actually an encoding. So we will encode it to string list, and you encode it to string represented in the byte array. So you can just write it directly, right? B. But there is another method because response writer is also a writer interface. You can do a new encoder and use this here and encode, and this actually look prettier. And it doesn't create, it doesn't do allocation as well because it just encode the whatever um, data structure you have directly to the writer. So you don't need to do extra allocation like, oh, encode it first into the memory, then from the memory, I'm going to write it to the response writer. So from here, I can just do this. Okay, let's check error. Unable to encode put list. Error is what? It might feel a bit verbose, but matter of getting used to it. So I cannot have any like that much of a that much of a alternative for it. So let's create this because we don't have the food list yet. So here let's add a helper function food list. Food list. I'm gonna return something. So how do we going to represent a data type? So what we want is something like this. I'm gonna call it food, and it'll be array of name, Silima, and rating. So this is what we are going to return the JSON. So this is our reference. There are two ways to do it. I'm going to start with the easy one first. I'm going to use map. So, so for this is very simple. Map string of what? Of a list or a slice of map thing interface because we have multiple types of map in there. So in there, it is this an array of this represented by this. So yes, just bear with me with it first because we are going to improve this part. So I'm gonna do this. It's a bit oxymoron to use transaction. I'm just gonna follow with it. It's just my habit. So we are going to query all the rows. Rows ex query select. I just want fields that I want food and rating or name. No, it's not food. It's for name and rating from food. Yep, no parameter. Then error and rows. Remember to close it. Anything that can be closed is always a good idea to do a defer close regardless. So we're gonna have this. We're gonna correct this. So let's create just this part right now. So we have a list of them. Make and when you initialize a slice, always set the length. 4 rows. Next. So we're gonna scan them. So what fields are we going to need? So we have name, and this is where the tip centric came from. Rating, int. This this will work most of the time. Let's do this. Let's return error. I'm gonna be really strict with error here, and I'm not tolerating any. Oh, and also here. So um, what is the problem with this? In Golang, your data type always your empty data type always you don't get a null for default data type. So if you declare a name string, you start with an empty string. If you declare an empty rating, which is an integer, you start with 0. It doesn't give you a null. So by default, all the basic type they don't uh, support null. They support default their own default value. So what happened with database is database table certain columns might contain, especially if you didn't set it, might contain null value. And when you try to cast a null into these types, it will raise an error. So how do we solve it? And the standard library actually provides a mechanism to handle this. For a null, for string is for a null string. For integer is called a null uh, for boolean is bool, float is float 64, and now integer 64. So now we are going to use this. So how do we uh, add a new item into an array? Technically, using the name array is wrong because array is considered another type, another kind of data type. In Golang, it's slice, but in just just an understood word that means a collection of data. So do an append of the previous one, previous states, and the new data. So it's silly to do it this way. Let me put M there. M or just item. I like to, personal opinion, I like to declare my variables backwards, something like a contract, so that if I forgot about it, the compiler will warn me about it. Mean, be careful though, because if you use a now string, you actually need to access the value. So rating, for right now, we don't care about the whether it's a int64 or normal integers. So put it here, maybe I append it here. So we are going to return a list. This is a list is actually here. So and also this is one of the shortcut to declare a map. You can actually, the really long way to do it is this: make map string integer, the item by key is this. This is the alternative of that. So if let's say you have a certain condition, like you want to set up the field for certain condition, then you can do it the old way. So if you are just doing it at the declaration part, you can just declare it. And the shorthand is just the curly brace after the type declaration. It and this method actually works for a slice as well. So I'm going to return map string. See, it's a bit silly. They are actually shorthand, but I would advise to avoid that for now when you first started. Base very silly, which is I call it a list. List. Yeah. Now we have, oh, food is actually for food, not for list. All right. So because we finished, it's like some contract, so we fulfill this contract, and we can just restart the server. And let's do a call at HTTP 9000. But I get a list. Oh, error. Do I have destination? Is not, oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, silly me. Oh, we actually okay. We're gonna just try to finish it up as soon as possible because it's this already exit 1 hour. So now we have this in JSON. But what's the problem with the code here is that this is very confusing. So luckily, the alternative way to do it, which is the cleaner way to do it, is where this. Let me get another type for food. Oh, I'm gonna call it food. I'm gonna call it food list. Then. Food is a bunch of food. Um, if we when in doubt, when you're not sure about whether to use a pointer for struct, just use pointer by default. So, so I have another type called food. So that when we work on the single food item, rating is integer. I'm gonna call it integer. There's no way we're gonna exit So instead of this, I'm going to have this. And what one good benefit of using a pointer for struct is that you can return a noun. Yeah, it's a bit of a so instead of this, we get a fruit list fruit, and instead of this, we get this name name string rating. You just need to class it back. Slossy if you have something that exceeded the in 32-bit integer. Be careful about that. Or right. So instead of here, I get food list, and what's the name of it? It's called food, and it'll be a list. Let's run it again. There's a caveat though, is that if if you remember the one that I covered previously, is that everything that is capitalized is exported, and for an external library like JSON encoder to be able to encode your data, it needs to be exported. So if you want to, let's say, hide something from the serializer, like let's say, oh, secret, and it will be omitted by it because the external function doesn't are not able to read whatever that is. It will skip that. So the problem with this is I'm gonna show you here. Very good. Is that the name is is that the field of the struct will be automatically converted into this. So if you want it to be the same as this, we have to do a declaration. Good. However, if you use most of the modern as that, this. And what this means is it will ignore the field. It will be omitted, means that it will not be rendered if it's a empty value. So, but be careful about this because for like let's say integer, a zero is actually considered empty. So if you want zero to be there, you you need to remove this part. So for this, let's read server, and we have it again. So if you want to just change the name of this, okay, let's instead of changing the data type, the field of the struct, you can just change whatever it is going to be serialized to. So it will be converted to list. And it works both ways. So if you are decoding a JSON into Golang, this is what you're going to look for. So I think that concludes a very simple example of HTTP server that returns different that does two functionality and with a database connections. So probably we are going to continue it next week. So right now, let me check the chats whether there are any questions. Oh, no question. Good. All right. I'm gonna stop here and hope you guys can benefit from it. And goodbye. Hopefully we are going to see each others again next week.